Hey, drama heads! Welcome back to another episode of the Long Yak. The first month of 2019 is already gone, and so are several of the dramas that we've been watching in the last few months. We give you our closing thoughts on some of these dramas. Oh, and major spoiler warning for the ending of Alhambra. We couldn't help ourselves. If you want to skip that, the timestamps are below. We also discuss ongoing dramas that have defied expectations and stayed interesting in the second half. Hello, Last Empress. Now, normally after currently airing and completed dramas, we move on to discussing upcoming shows. But we decided that this segment needs a new home. We've been planning a monthly series called What's Up in Dramaland for a while now, and because of the support of a few awesome patrons, we are finally starting to feel confident enough in this venture to produce this second monthly series. What's Up in Dramaland will cover industry news and speculations about upcoming dramas. This is something we were already doing inside the Long Yaks, but the episodes started getting ridiculously long and crowded. So, starting from this month, expect the release of a second episode a few days after the Long Yak. Now, if you have thoughts about this change or about some drama we discussed or missed out on, let us know in the comments, or on Twitter @dramasoverflow, or by emailing us at dramasoverflowers@gmail.com. You guys know how much we love emails. This episode of Dramas Over Flowers is brought to you by our Patreon community. We welcome our newest patron, Gracefulegg, to the fold. We are extremely grateful for your support, Gracefulegg. This is what is letting us dream bigger. If anyone else wants to take a look at our Patreon, please visit patreon.com, Dramas Over Flowers. We are the ones with the bright orange motif. Okay, onwards to the episode. See you inside.
Hey everyone, this is Saya.
This is Anissa.
And this is Forma. We're back with a new yak.
Yay!
Okay. Okay, so we are starting with currently airing. I don't think we're watching a lot of the new batch of dramas yet. We've all been caught up in work and stuff, but and studies. But I am watching Crowned Clown, and I think Saya has started it too, right?
I've watched 25 minutes of the first episode. I tried to watch more, but there was no time.
Okay, that totally counts. At least you have an idea of the atmosphere of the drama. And when we spoke about it in the last yak, I think we had expected something a little more lighthearted or something more along the lines of what's it called? Moonlight.
Drawn by Clouds.
Drawn by Clouds, yeah. And I thought it would be slightly more like that, but no, this got dark and really fast. And the thing is that there's you have these two characters, like usually with the prince and the pauper type of situation where you have like an upper class.
This is Yo Jingu playing a dual role as the crown prince turned king, I guess, and he has a doppelganger, right? Who is he is a doppelganger, right? I haven't got that part.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. So he's playing a dual role, and he is completely amazing in it. The last time I watched him was in Circle, which Sai and I both loved, but I don't know what he's done in the interim, but this is fantastic. I think I like him even more here.
He did that time travel drama, the Two Connected Worlds or something. No, wait, that's Circle. The other one. Yeah, anyway.
Wasn't that Circle?
No. It had a really similar name.
Tunnel.
Reunited Worlds. There you go.
Oh, right. I kept intending to watch it and then not watching it.
Yeah, and then you had the sort of the general disgruntlement of everyone watching. You're like, okay, pass.
Right.
But to be fair, he's good in everything. I haven't seen a single thing he's been bad in.
I've only seen that one thing, but I have to say that with Circle, his character was way more passive. He was confused and conflicted most of the time he was on screen. But with Crowned Clown, he has such a range of emotions and opportunity to perform.
Like he's playing two diametrically opposite characters. But the real reason Crown Clown, and I've watched I think the first 3 episodes, and these are long episodes. They're each over an hour, I think hour 10 minutes. But you don't feel the time passing. It's so gripping, and I hope it stays this way. It's dark, like legitimately really dark in terms of how bad can a king be? Not because he's cruel and evil for the heck of it, but because he is weak and incompetent and easily manipulated. And the drama quickly makes this point. They set up this amazing like historical context where they're like, look, we don't need a kingdom doesn't need its king to be a good man necessarily, but it does need the king to be strong, and the king on the seat here is not. There is, but it also doesn't dismiss the king. He has a backstory. There's a reason why he is the way he is. And then you have this clown who comes from a much lower strata of society, but he of course doesn't have the pressures that the king does, but he's also powerless. So like very early on, the show establishes how this guy is like, he's cheerful, but he's hot-tempered. And whenever something happens that's unjust, he wants to get revenge, but he can't because, he's a poor clown. But fate decides to put him in a situation where he suddenly wields power. Like he's still a puppet under other people's thumbs, but he has power. And he can finally get the justice that he wants. So... It's very interestingly done, because when the clown is playing the king, he doesn't understand why the court behaves the way it does. For him, the right thing to do is so simple. But then as he keeps sitting on the throne day after day, he starts realizing all the different pressures that controls the throne and the decisions that happen. But this is done so well. I am not used to Korean historicals actually having good court politics. I am stunned at how interesting it is. I know usually people completely they love the action, but they completely switch off when it comes to court drama. But this is one of those dramas where I'm pretty sure that the audience is going to watch it because of the politics. So
yeah. I usually don't enjoy court politics, but the other one that I found did a really good job with the king and his position and kind of like the politics of what he was trying to do as a king was Tree with Deep Roots. I don't know if you guys.
Oh, okay, I haven't watched.
That's been on my to watch list.
Oh my gosh, it's so good. And I mean, the cast is like unbelievable.
Is Yoo Jin-gu in that?
He's not. It's
Yoo Sung-woo.
Song Joong-ki. No, Song Joong-ki plays the young king. And there's a famous older actor who plays him as an adult, but he plays King Sejong, who created Hangul.
Yeah,
he's like a young genius, and you see how he like makes the language. It's really interesting, especially if you're a language nerd. And the villain is really good, and Jang Hyuk is in it too. Anyway, it's I didn't mean to go on a segue, but like I found that the court machinations and all of that was also really compelling in that.
Okay, but this drama so far is doing an amazing job of creating that a realistic version of Joseon era life, not just for the rich and the royal, but also for the poor people. One of the reasons, like the clown is initially forced into playing the doppelganger for the king because of some reason that the king has. But eventually he goes back into the role. He runs away and he goes back into the role because of something that happens in his life, and he wants justice. Now, usually I can't discuss this, but it's something that would make me really mad, because a woman has to suffer to give him motive, which we've talked about this before. The woman in refrigerator trope is just overused. However, because of the context of the era, this kind of stuff used to happen a lot, and there would be no justice. This actually makes sense, because what would a poor person do whose family has been hurt? Usually they would not be able to do a thing because of class politics, right? Because of the division in social stratas. But here he can just pretend to be the king and suddenly have this whole lot of power that he didn't have before. So it's convincing, and I like it. And yeah, so that's that's where I'm at.
Nice.
I'm scared about watching more after what just happened, though, in the bit that I did watch.
Yeah, but I think they did that initially. They threw out like really the darker elements of the stories
It was
right
the
out of the
worst,
bat because
darkest
it
possible
was.
thing. Are we allowed to
Oh,
spoil it?
you would think. But the thing is that it's not the worst, darkest possible thing, and that is what
seems
makes
like
this
it.
drama more gripping because usually what would happen with K-dramas is the clown would come in and he would be kind to everyone. Everyone would be like, "Hey, what happened to the hateful king? He became so nice." And then court would just flourish and become really nice, and everybody would be happier. But no, that is not how it works. The clown goes in, he tries to be nice, and then because of the way court life works, he realizes that his simplistic point of view just is not going to make things perfect here. Like things are more complicated. That just because you're good doesn't mean that everybody around you will also be good. I like it because of the realism here, but also because how well the drama plays out. It just like him realizing that the world is bigger than what he knew. It gets darker.
So that's at 2 episodes right now?
Isn't it 6 or something?
No, I think I think it's 6. I'm in about I'm in the 4th episode now. Just started.
Where's time going?
Yeah.
Really, right?
Can I just add one more thought to that before we move on?
Yeah, sure.
Because you're describing it really reminds me a lot of Ruler, Master of the Mask, the drum Yusunger did, I think, last year or the year before last. The one where he plays he's a king, crown prince, and he has L, the actor, the what's his name?
Young-soo.
Yeah, that's his name. It's not a doppelganger, but because he wears a mask all the time, he plays the king's. He's the what is it? Why can't I speak? Hold on. He is he's
his body double.
Right, that's it. He's a king. He plays the king's body double. But that kind of he did that really well, but the rest of the drama wasn't that great. So it sounds like this is maybe a better revised take on the same kind of idea, which I'm quite excited by, actually.
Nice.
Yeah. Okay.
Should we move on to Sky Castle?
Yeah, let's.
Okay, so me and Burma have been watching Sky Castle.
Oh, I just started watching it. I think Anisa's far ahead of me by now.
So I want to hear your thoughts since you haven't watched as much, and then I'll give you my thoughts.
I don't know. Initially, the first episode was okay. That it was not so. I couldn't figure out what was so amazing about this drama. Why people were so happy with it. And then I think it was at the end of episode 1 when things kind of went insane and amazing because what I thought was like a staid sort of parent versus academics moralizing sort of preachy drama suddenly became more complex, like more of a human drama. And I really like how there are different families with different family dynamics. So it's not like a sort of a one-note thing where you have this one set of parents pressurizing their child to study and the child not being able to cope under that pressure. There are layers. I like how they are exploring the parents' side of the thing, which pretty much never happens. I was just thinking that all the other school associated dramas that we have watched, 2013, 2017, Sassy Go-Go, even Boksu, they are more about how the students go against the establishment, how the parents or against the parents, the student teacher versus principal and parents. That is usually the dynamic that plays out, and we always are on the side of
Mom.
With the exception of Angry Mom, so we're usually on the side of the students, right? Looking sort of up towards Goliath that way, like that's our perspective. But they've completely shifted it now. Most of what we're seeing in this drama is not the kids' perspective. The kids are they're a very important element, but the primary perspective is the parents and their myriad motivations. So it's so far it's been interesting. But how does it get even more interesting? I still don't understand why it's supposedly so gripping. So that happens.
Yeah. So I watched about a little over 6 episodes, and I actually watched a couple more yesterday with my sister. Me and her are watching it together, but we felt the same way. Like the first episode, we were like, this is kind of boring. Everyone is really unpleasant. Like, what's so great about this show? And then right at the end of the first episode, when like that event happens, that kind of throws everyone for a loop and turns everything upside down in that neighborhood, is really when it starts. And like, I mean, we're just past the end of episode 6, and like things keep happening. And normally in this normally I would be like, this is getting a little too dramatic, but like my sister and I were agreeing that like it just works so well. So like on a certain level, it's a little bit over the top, but then on another level, like because it's a satire and it's a black comedy, it can deal with really dark, heavy things. And in those moments, the dark, heavy things, like you feel the impact of those. Like, for example, the things that happen to these people and their families. Like it deals with some pretty intense topics that I don't want to spoil, but it's like serious stuff that people deal with in their real lives. But then there's also some really great moments of just humor that comes from the characters. And like, I mean, these veteran actors are killing it. And like you said, they do really focus on the parents. And so you get these moments, like Yoon-se is my favorite. She plays the mom of the twins. Like twins who are like, there's one family that has this really brilliant daughter who's like basically a psychopath.
Super ambitious.
She'll do anything, and her mom will do anything. Like they're set, both of them. And then there's this other family who the father is like this really smart and controlling law professor, and he's played by the evil ghost and goblin. I don't remember the actor's name.
I had forgotten that's who it was.
The casting is so good. He's
the
so
evil eunuch, right? Yeah,
the evil eunuch. Yeah, and then his wife is played by Yoon-se, and she's just so like, I mean, she's always good, but she plays this. She just wants the best for her kids, and she doesn't like the way that her husband like is so suffocating and like patriarchal and dominating
and manipulative.
Yeah, she's the only one in this neighborhood that like has a soul. but like she has these like quiet moments of like rebellion, or like she makes these comments sometimes, and like we would just cheer because she's so smart and funny, and like sometimes when the other people are doing ridiculous stuff, she just like looks at them, and like, you know, Yoon-se is really good at having these like very great expressions. Her expressions are the best. And then her sons are also they're really adorable. They love their mom, and they basically study their butts off so that their mom won't get mistreated by their dad, which is like a really sad dynamic, but it also makes me love them so much. So anyway, I don't want to go into too much detail, but like I wanted to say how much I love her, and the music is perfect. There's this one moment where I was just like, it was such a great moment, but I don't want to spoil it, but it's like it's a soundtrack to a really famous movie, and it has something to do with like the study room in their house. That's all I'll say. But that was a great scene. I also wanted to mention that episode 19 broke 22% ratings, which means it's the highest rated cable drama in history. Insane. Yes, it's broken Goblin record, which was 20.5%.
What?
Goblin and Reply 1988. Yeah, it's broken both of those records. So it's like people are really watching this. I couldn't find the news story.
But you know what's hilarious? That people are watching this, and then they like I read a news report about people the investment in these consultants has actually kind of skyrocketed.
Right.
Since. Like it's like
it's really
achieving the opposite of what it wants to do.
That's what I was just gonna say, is that I was trying to look for where I had seen it and I couldn't find it. But yeah, I saw that too. I think, did you share it? Somebody else.
I put it in the document.
And it's just nuts. It's like so nuts. I was telling my sister about it, and I was like, the drama is trying to show that it's bad. She's like, yeah, it's like Finding Nemo, where they were trying to show how like you shouldn't pollute the environment and you should protect these fish, but then like everyone went out and bought Finding Nemo and like made them go extinct, and, like, almost extinct. And it was like the opposite of the message of the movie. So humans are terrible, basically. Yeah. But anyway, it's really good. I cannot wait to watch the next episode. I can't believe like there's like continuous reveals. It's so good. It's just so intense and gripping, and like I'm so invested, and I'm like very surprised at how invested I am. But yeah, really.
The 2 episodes that I think 2.5 episodes that I watch, every episode, like the first half of the episode would be one thing, and then the second half of the episode, the stuff would change. Like something would be revealed, and then the entire story would change.
Yeah, and it just keeps getting better. And even like the characters that are really hateful, like you hate them, but like it's so enjoyable to like hate them and to watch them. And so
Okay. Yeah. No. Okay. One thing I really wanted to. I don't know where that storyline goes, but you know that super ambitious girl that you just called a psychopath. This girl, like she really wants to be the first, and her mom really wants her to be the doctor so that she can be acknowledged by her mother-in-law. It's just screwed up. Whatever. But the thing is that I love that. She loves her daughter and she's super affectionate towards her daughter, and it's just that in this one instance the mother and the daughter want the same thing, so all the machinations, all the strategizing, all the all of those things are done with the consent of the child.
I mean that mother is, if you keep watching, she's terrible.
I'm sure she is, but where I have stopped watching is the time when she goes and slaps that woman in the parking lot, where after she finds out about what she finds out.
Yeah, but I just keep watching because.
I actually thought that was a bit of a redeeming moment for her, but damn, I did not want her to. Okay, fine.
No, all that redemption. It's she gets much worse later. Also, like
but on her husband, I dislike her husband. I don't know where he's. I think he tries to come off as really cool, but I already dislike him. He acts like he doesn't care about his daughter being first and becoming he criticizes his wife for all the machinations, but he also wants exactly the same thing she does. He just doesn't want to seem he is, right? I'm not just imagining that.
Absolutely. Like you just see it more and more how like he wants all of that, but he acts like he's above it.
Yeah.
So at least his colleague who like drinks and comes home every night is honest about how greedy he is.
Yeah. I actually like that pair. I they are supposed to be the comic relief, I think, but I genuinely like that pair, like him and his wife.
Yeah, his wife is.
She's shallow,
but she really wants the best for her kid. So, and her kid is really cute too. So anyway, let's leave it there, and we'll come back. I want to talk to you once you've like watched more, because
I think that how many episodes are left?
It was originally 16, but it was so popular that they extended it to 20.
Oh no!
So I think there's just the last 2 episodes that have to air, but they changed the finale airing schedule for some reason.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's almost.
So
finished.
we'll probably definitely talk about this next month. So
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So moving on to The Last Empress. Saya, this is all yours.
Okay, The Last Empress. So, Parma, how far are you?
I am still halfway. I think I'm episode 26, which is 13, I guess. So still there. Not very far.
How many episodes have you seen, Saya?
I can't remember the count. Okay, so I'm at 37. 35, 36 is what I've just watched, which is 18? Is that 18?
Yeah, 18. So that's a good 5 episodes there.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So basically, speaking of makjang, this show is nuts but great. And you're gonna love where it's going. So you remember I said last time I was worried that I would like get makjang fatigue?
Yeah.
And because that
how can it possibly stay good? Like how can it possibly keep up this pace?
Right. But I'm so surprised that this show does continue to surprise. And like there's one thing that I am a bit tired of, which is Minura, who like how many times is the woman gonna sort of die and then come back and not be
what is she, a zombie now?
She keeps coming back in different capacities and you're like, oh my god, not you again, please, I really have had enough of you. And because she's got this like breathy whisper, which is like the way she speaks is really beginning to aggravate me.
And that's disappointing. She was so interesting.
No, but I mean, it's not been that bad because she isn't dominating. She's sort of there for quick flashes. So it's not like, oh my god, I hate it whenever she turns up.
But what is disappointing is that her character devolved in that way. Like even around episode 26, where I am, she's obviously clearly been sidelined. So even if she comes back, she's not going to come back as one of the main villains. It's always going to be a side villainous character. It's just that her character's been derailed.
Part of the reason that they can't discard her completely is that her punishment is still like it needs to come. She is one of the original
even more. It's just
so like what's his name's Che Jin-hyuk's revenge has to include her, so she can't disappear completely because she and the emperor have to go down together either way. But what's so great is like how many people have to go down. So
wow.
like you know how the show opened with it had this cold open of like digging up a body, this desiccated corpse, and you know, with those the empress's crown jewels around her neck, and we were like, you know, oh my god, who is that? Well, we just hit that episode, and oh my god, it's just it's so good. Basically, you know, like the question that has there are two deaths that the show's been sort of really digging into. One of those deaths is an old death, and one of them is a death that happens sort of early in the show. I don't want to spoil this for you, but it's a twist and a half.
Okay.
So
if there is a twist to look forward to, I'm all for it. Yay.
Yeah, it's really good. But also there's so much more to it than, you know, the mystery of who died and who did it. And like that moment when you realize what really happened, I think I was just like agog. It's like, raw.
There are more murderers in the kitchen. What the heck?
Like, it's crazy. I'm not gonna ruin this for you because it's so good. But like,
no, but now you've convinced me to keep watching, because one of the reasons I kind of stopped was because I didn't want it to sort of like, you know, peter away into.
Oh no, dude, this is so tightly plotted. It's surprising, and because you know you kind of you feel with this kind of mukjang, this kind of melodrama that they just make it up as they go along and let it get as crazy as it can get. But it's all kind of, you know, as like a viewer feedback thing, you know, with the whole live shooting and all of that. But this is like, it's clearly well thought out. Like the stuff has been built up from the beginning, really tightly plotted, so well written, and it is nuts, but it's good nuts. And like you know how our two main villains are the Emperor Lee-hyuk, and his mum, the Dowager Empress. They're such interesting characters. I think I said a couple of weeks ago on Twitter that, you know, the Dowager Empress is like a one-note character, and that's not interesting. I take it back. She is really interesting. So like she has this moment in the last episode that I watch where she's in private and she actually cries a real tear. And it's shocking because this is a woman without any evident feelings. She's willing to use anyone and everything, and she has like no feelings for her kin. She's, you know, whether it's her sons or her mother-in-law or any, like, she just doesn't care about people. She only uses them. So she has this one moment where she realizes that her son is about to be brought down, and she cries an actual tear, you know, that it's come to this. And then she wipes it away, like just very briskly wipes it away, and she's the one who puts the seal on his fate. And it's like, this is so dark. It's amazing. And then you have the emperor himself, who starts off as this really sort of irredeemable character. And and both of us, I think, were saying as we were watching this that we don't really, like, he doesn't deserve to be redeemed. And of course, it's all in the performance and the way the character's written and the way the actor handles it. And definitely the dude needs punishing, but you feel pity for him. Like, we're at this point where he's totally fallen for Jung Nair's character, Sunny, and Sunny has understood him, and she's begun to manipulate him in the same way everyone else around him does. She has, like, you know, obviously she has her reasons, and there's like justified reasons for a justified end. But I still feel a little bad watching her manipulate him. I mean, he's weak-minded, and this has been happening to him like his whole life. Someone's always pulling his strings. And like, you know, because of that, he's never been really sort of forced to grow into someone stronger, someone with any kind of moral fortitude. There's such a mixture of power and weakness in him. Like, not strength, power. Like, he has the power that his position confers. But he's weak, and he's been abused since he was a kid, and he's been used his entire life by other people, mainly his mother. And the one person who had loved him, like, for who he was, he he plays a role in getting that person removed from his life. And so, like, it's just, he's a pitiable character in a pitiable position, but he still did what he did. And those things are not forgivable.
But the way his character is written, every single that happens to him, he causes it himself.
Right, exactly. It's his own weakness that brings it onto himself.
Yeah, but like, there is no situation where he could have been a better man. He had ample opportunity. I mean, like, he had a really good wife in the first. She was in the queen. She was the queen.
The
right?
Empress, yeah, Empress.
Yeah, the first Empress. He had a really good wife. He was the one who messed that situation up. It just because anytime he's given a good thing,
because he can't believe in it, and because he lets himself be influenced by the wrong people while mistrusting the right people. I mean, in a way, he reminds me so much of people I know in real life as well. And like, you know, there are some people who just need to have, who will always be weak like this, but like the person, their partner needs to be like good.
Okay, so earlier when we were talking about Crown Clown, I forgot to talk about this. You have the character, the Crown. Yojin goes when he's playing the king. The king is married to Lee Se-young's. I forget the queen's name here, but Lee Se-young, who's the zombie Bora from Hwayugi. I loved her there, by the way, and I love her here. I couldn't recognize her at first because the entire historical garb, it just changed her face a bit, but she is really good. Anyway, he has a really good queen. She has a strong moral character, a strong moral compass, and they actually have a pretty decent. And it's not so much that they have a decent relationship, which they don't, because he's a mad king. But in some ways, he respects her, and he desperately wants her respect. But he's too weak to resist the strings of other people in the court. And when it's just she is the good influence that you're talking about,
right?
And he could have been a better man.
But in a way, isn't that even more interesting that like the love of a good woman couldn't save him because like
this is true in both cases, like in
fundamentally
both,
flawed.
Exactly.
It's a better story than him like falling in love. I mean, I haven't seen either of one of these, but like we see it so often where like all this guy needs is like a wonderful woman to become his moral center and make him a better person, you know?
Doesn't this also remind you of The King and Goblin?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I haven't seen these, but yeah, the dynamic for sure. That was also really, that was
it was that dynamic. It was such a, I think, is this like a king thing, the weak king?
I don't know, but it's
like as a character archetype.
I mean, it's clearly a trope that works. I think it's a
it's also a trope that's true in real world.
Especially for like the Korean, the kingdoms that came in history. Like it was a lot of stories about kings who were kind of manipulated.
There are a lot of stories like that in Indian history as well.
That's true.
And emperors who
basically. So it's a royalty thing. Then it's not just
maybe it's just a power thing. Like the person who holds the greatest power is always going to be someone other people will want to control.
and will be able to control, because the king, and no matter where you are, the king might seem like he's at the apex, but he never actually is. His position is directly supported by the shoulders of a lot of people he's standing on, and if they start moving, he falls. So he's always very wary about losing his position. So he has to listen to the people around him, and that's one of the major components. Not in The Last Empress so much, though I suppose he does depend on his mother's influence a lot. So there is that.
And it's exacerbated in the sense of like it's any type of power position, but when it's a hereditary like monarchy, then you've been manipulated and you're in that position since childhood. So then the person who's
especially susceptible
is even more vulnerable in those ways.
Oh, that reminds me of a character that I do in the young Arya Egishi, who is now Ari Gongju. She's the princess. She's a little like, oh god, I hated her so much in the beginning.
I hated her too.
Oh god, she was the worst. She was such a stuck-up little prig and always like talking. He had this little specific way of talking, and it made me so mad. It was like that. But now she's turned a corner, like again under the influence of someone who can actually guide you to correct.
Yeah, but she's at that age. Like the one thing I really liked about her character, even when I hated her, was that how she was always reacting directly to the influence of the people around her. She was behaving like that because that was the only way she could get any attention.
She was a micro-politician. She understands politics.
So like a real child.
Yes.
all kids are politicians. No, it's true.
Yeah, exactly. Like she's sneaky and there's this moment where she's like crying and she looks up, like her head is down and she's looking up to see how to gauge how
is it being received.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just but she's like under Sunny's sort of tutelage. She's become, she's still like funny and forceful in that princessy way, but she's directing it towards better ends, and it's really satisfying to see that.
Okay, well, I have to get back to watching.
You're going to enjoy her now. You're really going to enjoy her.
Okay, we have to move on to the next show, guys,
which is My Strange Hero. Yay!
Yay!
Yeah,
I love this show. It's so good. I basically.
Sad that I haven't watched any since the last yak. I'm
not even calling it My Strange Hero. In my head, I keep calling this like Books on the Wildflowers, and it's like that's its name now.
The wildflowers have really grown on me. I love how they are being the characters there are being developed.
So how far into it are you guys, or how far?
I don't actually know which episode is airing, but I haven't watched the last 2 weeks.
I think we're at 25, 26.
Okay. Yeah, so
I'm
just
still
the last
on.
2 weeks.
I haven't watched any more since the last time we talked. So.
Oh, okay. Well, you've got a lot to look forward to.
I was like waiting until I had a good chunk of time to enjoy it, and I just never had a good chunk of time because.
So the one good thing though that I have to say right off the bat, even though I don't know where it's gone in the last 2 weeks, is that Soo-jung has been written better now. You know how we were complaining about her character's inconsistency, like the whole forgiveness thing, and that was just. But I think the writers redeemed themselves. Her arc is getting better, and she's getting more badass.
Nice.
Okay, so basically, I have thoughts. I'm 1 episode behind, so I'm up to 24. So my take home from this is, number 1, Yusunga needs to do comedy forever. This is just...
Yes, absolutely. He's amazing.
He's so good.
Yeah, I agree.
And because like it suits like being over the top a little bit, suits his acting style as well. And also he goes all in for it. He's like, he has no self-consciousness, and he doesn't, I mean, like with that face you don't need to, but like oh, it's so good. And I love the the sort of the musketeer trio, which is Boksu, Singu, who is the gangster student who is always in the back corner. I feel weird.
The one that he saved him from his like evil Arbeit boss, that guy.
Yeah, that guy. And Youngmin.
I like him.
The what's it called? The
one who tried to
the Ivy class dropout.
Yeah.
Yeah, those two are just solid.
because like the bond between them has grown as well, and there's like this great moment. I'm just gonna tell you, I don't care. Where they
no,
I'm gonna tell you. You're gonna look forward to it. Do you really want me to not tell you?
Okay,
it's very small.
Go.
Okay, fine.
Okay, so they like they get one over on Seiho, and they come out of the office grinning, and Baksu holds like his hands up. I was gonna say
for high fives.
For namaz. Can you cut this part out though, P? So he holds up his hand. One on each side, and the two boys look at him, and they're like, Sungu's like grudgingly giving him this like high five, and they have this such a cute high five moment, and it's so good.
Aww.
They are very cute. But what I really do like is the way that Seiho has developed. And how he's actually kind of come clean to Sejong, because Sejong is someone who now she's become this character who doesn't let stuff fester. She just goes and confronts him. So she's like, what did you do? Like, why are you doing this? And he straight up says, I wanted to separate you guys. And he's an interesting character in that, like, he it has no self-awareness. And he keeps trying to play people like games against each other, and he's always trying to assert himself and his own victories, and largely without regard for what it means for the other person.
But also he doesn't know how real humans work, so
right, exactly. So he thinks that people should act in the way that he thinks they should act, without understanding that people are actually like people.
Yeah.
And like it's a great character, and he's doing like Kwak Dong-young is doing better with the whole, because I thought he was overacting a bit before with his crazy eyes, and he's toned that down, and he's much better now with the dead eyes, much better. but what I really love about like the episode that I just finished, which would be sort of 12 by the normal count, where the angst starts, is that the obligatory episode 12 angst. Like the crux and the climax of the episode was not about the fate of the romance, and this isn't a spoiler, we all know what happens in episode 12. Everyone says let's break up and there's a separation. So but instead it really turned it on the school corruption case, and you've got like Sujung like ready to light her fire and burn down the world, and it's so sort of beautifully brought together. I like it.
Oh, I'm so glad that it's like getting really good, because I was a little bit unsure after our last yak.
Oh no, you're gonna love it. The way it's going, you're gonna love it.
Nice.
As long as you forget the first few episodes.
Yeah. No, I don't think you need to forget the first few episodes. It was good from the get-go. It's just that they wanted the romance to get started already, but they had put in this conflict that needed some real in-depth conversation to resolve, but they didn't want to give the space for that conversation to happen. So they resolved it first, and then in fits and starts, they had parts of that conversation later on. So,
I do like how that, like, because this is like meant to be like a love triangle, right? But I like how the romance is not
a love triangle at all.
Yeah, I mean, it's an easy romance, and the couple are so secure, and they're not threatened by Seiho. Like their coupledom is not threatened in the way that she's not torn between these two men and whatever. It's just like neither of them have any doubt about who they want to be with, and the trouble that he can cause them isn't of the romantic kind.
Yeah.
So like how they've sort of low-keyed the angst on the romance, but because there's so much more angst in there, you don't need to push it onto the romance. The romance can just be.
I always like those kind of stories better, honestly.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't wait until I have time to watch this. I'm excited. You're talking about how Yoo Seung-ho should always do comedies, and like I had this thought, and I'll come back to this when I talk about variety, but I had this thought that like he reminds me a lot of Lee Jun-ki, actually, because they both have this ability to just like full on cry, and like it just takes them a second and they're just like fully immersed, and like they're such good actors, and but like they both have that tendency to go like a little bit like 1% too over the top, which
works when you're playing royalty. It just doesn't any other time,
right?
Unless you like it that way, which I have to say I do.
Right, but I mean, then it's like when it's no longer like life or death and empire stakes, then you're just like, But because they have that tendency, like I feel
right,
like
royalty or high school.
Right. Lee Joon-gi would work in a comedy, and I wish that he would do one. I don't think he has. I want to see him in a comedy. Like,
watch Lawless Lawyer. He's great in it.
Yeah. Okay.
It's
Yeah,
funny.
definitely. I'll watch it.
I mean,
so
it's funny in that over the top action. Like, didn't I tell
It's
you guys there were like
hilarious.
wind machine and like these light sources from God knows where coming on whenever there was an action
Lawless
scene.
Lawyer is so fun. It was one of my favorite dramas last year.
Yeah,
I didn't realize
it's
that
stylized
was
to the point where
humor. I just thought
it was subtle in that, you know, it's poking fun at the really stylized action dramas.
That's what I love the most. So I'll definitely have to watch.
But the humor is very, very self-aware. It's good.
Nice. Okay.
Okay. So I'll be talking about Boyfriend now, and the thing is that I am not up to date on this one. Because of stuff, I have not actually been watching dramas much in the last few weeks. But here is something that I found on Twitter that I wanted to discuss with you guys. So someone I follow.
Can you tell us what episode you finished up till?
I have no clue. Just
okay.
Okay, last time we'd got up to the Masquerade Ball. So is it like?
Yeah, I think I've watched like 2 episodes after that.
Okay.
So, yeah. You have Park Bo-gum's character running away a lot, which is, can a salary person like a trainee do that? I don't know, but he
Isn't
does.
he sent away?
Well, no, you're talking about him being removed from the main office, but then he kind of just ups and leaves after that.
Oh.
He does that too.
The rules are different for beautiful people.
Yeah, exactly. The rules are different. But the thing is that
I'm space, you can do anything. Sorry. Go ahead.
The thing is that okay, so I am not up to date on this drama, but I had this interesting discussion with kfangurl on Twitter because she wrote this article. Like she has a blog, the Fangirl Verdict, and she wrote this really interesting article on why she dropped Boyfriend. And I don't think I want to drop it. I really enjoy watching Song Hye-kyo on screen even more than Park Bo-gum. It's just something about her extremely graceful, forbearing character here. I'm really drawn to it. It's very realistic, and it's also she's charismatic in this very quiet way, and I love it.
She's really
and I want to see like she's gearing up for battle with her ex-in-laws, and I just want to see how that goes down. So that has already gone down. I just have not watched it yet.
I'm actually more interested in that than in the romance, to be honest.
Yeah, same.
Exactly. So that's exactly what the conversation was about. The thing is, initially I did have some reservations about okay, so there is this social conditioning that we all have, where when we see the older younger pairing, we're generally just more comfortable when the man is older, right? Now we all love Noona romance in this group, but when you have a face like Park Bo-gum's who looks so starkly younger than Song Hye-kyo, it was startling at first. The first episode took me a while to get used to that dynamic. But once I did, and especially because I loved Song Hye-kyo, I was in it. But there was this vague unease as the story went on that I just couldn't I couldn't pinpoint the reason for it. I thought maybe I was just being prejudiced. Like I'm being perfectly cool with like the employer-employee romances when the guy is the boss. So why is this making me uncomfortable? And kfangurl wrote her reasoning for it, and I think she completely nailed it. Okay, I'm just gonna read out a bit of her thing, like a very small portion. Just bear with me.
Yeah, go for it.
Because I think she just did a fantastic job of saying it. She says that there is a problem with this genre, the where this drama has been placed. It's kind of like a mix of two things. In this drama, there are two groups of people: those who believe they live in a rom-com world, and those who firmly believe that they don't live in a rom-com world. And when you try to smush rom-com type expectations into a non-rom-com world, things get problematic. What she means by this is that you have Song Hye-kyo and Park Bo-gum who are
acting really irresponsibly when it comes to workplace etiquette. They are doing things that I'll go into in a bit, that are it's irresponsible and it's unprofessional. But when you're in a rom-com, it doesn't matter, because hey, boss secretary stories we loved when it was happening in What's Wrong with Secretary Kim. Nobody thought it was unprofessional when the romance was starting to take off. So but in this drama it was bugging me, because the stakes in this drama are very real. Everybody around them are living in the real world, where if the boss sends a car to pick up her boyfriend from his workplace, which is also her workplace, it's a privilege she's giving to a staff member. And he's only getting that privilege because he's dating her. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah.
And then when she comes into his office and he's the most junior member of that team, everybody leaves so that the boss can talk to her boyfriend. These are things that they're just unprofessional to do.
And
do you think it would be different if the genders had been reversed? Would we still think that?
That's what I initially thought, but I don't think so. I think in this particular case, you have these two characters because that's what I'm saying. If this had been a completely rom-com drama, where you have these two characters slowly falling in love, and everybody around them going like, oh, these two are falling in love, and the evil people are all outside the company and they are being evil in their evil way, and it's a bit caricaturish, that would be fine. You know how in Secretary Kim, you had everybody in the company actually being supportive of their romance once they especially their core team being supportive, and you had the actor, the boss's parents being supportive, and everybody. That was not the conflict, even though they they did mention a bit about her discomfort about his behavior in the workplace, how it's making everybody think that she got her position by sleeping with him. They mentioned that, but they didn't go into it because Secretary Kim, that drama was a rom-com. You don't talk about real life actual consequences. Whereas in Encounter, the actual consequences are being shown on screen. His career is being affected. Her career is being affected.
The atmosphere of a saga in modern times with the company, it's so intense, and or at least I felt a little bit.
It's fantastic.
It's
but
great,
again, it gives this grim realism to the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
So when in that atmosphere, see, in this situation, I would expect these two to be extra careful about their relationship so that they can protect themselves and also not make the people in the office, because look, he kept working for her even though they started dating, and there is this huge difference in their status in the company. And of course he'll be treated differently because he's dating the boss openly.
It's everybody not knows Secretary Kim, where they're already a team that's been together forever
for a decade. And also they kept their romance quiet till the last moment,
right?
But here it's just as they started dating, it became public news, and it's an uncomfortable situation. So I would have expected the CEO to be more respectful of his position in society. Her conflict was not that his career is being affected. Her conflict was that my mother-in-law and my mother might try to harm him, not that her actions are directly harming his career, which they are. And the drama was not addressing that, even though everything else was so realistic that you would expect that these things be addressed. You would expect an experienced CEO like her, who knows how society works around her, how people talk, how much she's scrutinized, to be aware that there are consequences to what she's doing. And especially because, not just because she's older, but because she has more experience in this world, she should have been more protective of him, not just by pushing him away, but just by protecting him, not by... Anyway, so that was...
That's a really good analysis, I think.
I would not have thought of this if not for kfangurl. So I have put a link to her article in the description below. Please, guys, go read it. It's interesting. And even if you don't agree with me, it's just interesting to read that perspective. So you guys should do that.
Shout out to kfangurl. Her blog is really great. You should all go read it.
Yeah.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
And yeah, it is great. I read it as well. About the rom-com thing, are you just to clarify, you're saying that the characters are acting like they're in a rom-com, not that the drama is a rom-com?
Exactly. The characters
because
are
the actual
acting.
drama is it's a romance melodrama.
It's a romance melodrama, but the characters are acting like their actions have no consequences. It's not like the heady teenagers where they're like, oh, we're going to do this because we are in the moment. And then these two, especially Song Hye Kyo's character, is a very reserved, measured character who's had a world of experience and hurt. So even when she's giddy and happy with Park Bo-gum, and that's good. I love seeing that. Look, I actually enjoy watching them together. I do. It's the office dynamics that is making me uncomfortable. I genuinely think that the way the relationship was carried out in the office was irresponsible, and there should be consequences, and that he probably should not be working for. I know it's a hit on his career, but that could not be helped. He should not be working for that company. He should be working somewhere else and then freely date her. It just because that dynamic is just, and we talked about this in Secretary Kim too, that it's not, and it's not like he spent years of his life in this company already. He can make a new start somewhere else. But yeah, anyway, so that's, I don't know where the drama is going. I have not watched it in the last couple of weeks, but yeah, so those were the initial thoughts. Yeah.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that. That's an interesting perspective because remember last time I was like, there was something about it that was making me feel a bit awkward, but you guys were like, no, it's fine. But I didn't think about the genre thing because you're so right. That's what it is. It's the genre thing. Okay, so completed shows. I just finished Top Star Yoo-baek like last night, very late this morning, early.
Did you sleep at all last night?
I did. I woke up a little bit later, so I've got like 5 or 6 hours. It wasn't too bad. So I finished this finished airing yesterday, which was Friday the 25th. And I just watched it like right away because I wasn't watching it for a while, and then like I think on Monday or Sunday I watched 8, 9, and 10, and then I was like waiting for the end. So then I just watched the ending, and it was just a really, I mean, I've said this consistently, but it's just a really cute, funny, fun drama. It has a heart of gold, honestly. The leads are lovable, the side characters are lovable. There aren't really any villains. But it's actually also very surprisingly moving. So then you have this kind of light, slapsticky, comedic, romantic comedy, but then rather than making this, like, for example, the people on the island, the people in Yoo-baek's agency, his mother that he's kind of estranged from, like all these other characters, it could have just been one note, two-dimensional kind of caricatures, but they ended up being, by the end, like I loved all of them, like they all had their own little stories, like the teacher and the doctor's little romance that was like so over the top and ridiculous, but it was great, and then these two like Halmonies, like the grandmothers that we saw in the beginning. Remember we talked about them in our sort of first impressions and how they were like this funny pair, but then like in the latter, like the last couple of episodes of the drama, like you actually get this really touching storyline and this backstory between them that really made me tear up and get kind of emotional. And like, so by the end, it was just like this family of people that you don't want to leave. And I really liked how instead of making it a gimmick for Yoo-baek to go to the island and sort of redeem himself by falling in love with this girl, it was more like that place changed him so much. And it was such a convincing transformation because of the information that we get about like what his life had been like up till that point, that I never felt like it was gimmicky or like, so even though it had a lot of like over the top moments, the root of the story was actually pretty well written and very sincere, and I really bought it. So like I'll give 2 examples just really quickly. Like for an example of kind of the humor, there's this one part where the only villain is like this bulldog reporter that won't let go of Yoo-baek's gossip story, and he's like always waiting for a moment to, so he breaks this really damaging falsified report about Yoo-baek, and like the company, like the president of Yoo-baek's company goes and like smashes his camera in revenge with like a mask on. And the reporter had often been wearing a mask too because he was sneaking around, and so then they have this confrontation. And they both do that thing from like the Mr. Sunshine posters where both like, putting the face on each other and like seeing if they can recognize the other person by only looking at their eyes. And it's like hilarious, but it's also really corny. There's a lot of moments like that where like it's kind of cheesy, but it's also genuinely really funny. And I mean the cast really pulls off, like it's a great cast. But then there's also moments like, for example, early on, I'm just going to say it because it's pretty early on in the drama. It's right in the beginning when they still kind of hate each other, but Kang-soon, who is the heroine, it's the memorial day of her parents' death, and her parents, like, they drowned in an accident when she was, like, 2 or 3. And it kind of shows this whole, like, the whole episode is kind of about that loss and how it's affected the people on the island who are basically like a family, and how it's affected her. And that's his first moment where he just really just wants to be there for her and comfort her because of his own really tragic and horrible experience with his own parents. And it was like their first genuine moment of connection. And like, I kind of teared up a little bit. Like, it was really sweet. It helps if the music is pretty good too.
Yeah, the music is really good.
The music is really good. So yeah, and I mean, it's rare that I feel completely satisfied by the ending of something, but I feel completely satisfied. Like, and it was like the perfect length. It was 11 episodes. They all ended up being around 90 minutes. So it wasn't as short as it sounds, but I think it was perfect. Like, it never dragged. It didn't go on too long. I didn't care that everybody had an overly perfect happy ending. It was great. It made me feel a little bit healed inside.
Aww.
So yeah, I highly recommend it.
Okay, yeah, and I am going to finish watching it. The thing with most dramas is that even though they start off really well, often by the second half there is this exhaustion. So I have been programmed to be really wary of second halves. And I tend to, like, if I'm going to stop watching a drama for now, anywhere, it's going to be at the second half. And that seems to have happened with all my currently watching dramas. But yeah.
No, there's no slump in this one. There's no episode 12. I mean, there isn't an episode 12, so maybe that's the secret.
How many episodes is it?
It's 11.
Oh, I see.
It's 11, and they're longer. I mean, they end up being like 95 minutes, but I think it ends right at the perfect. Like, you just get just enough like of that like fluffy fan servicey stuff at the end to make you feel satisfied without you feeling like you got like a sugar coma and now you feel a little sick, you know?
Yeah.
So that's that's Yoo-baek.
Okay. Yay. One more thing to keep watching. Which I was gonna keep watching anyway. I don't know why I'm acting like I would not have been watching this.
Start watching for me.
Yeah.
So speaking of endings being satisfying or not, tell me about Memories of the Alhambra.
Oh, Saya has a lot to say.
I have a lot to say. Do you want to start or do you want me to go first?
I'll go first because I just finished it, so I would appreciate even a few more minutes to process it.
Okay, so so that ending. Oh my God, this drama! So we need to talk about Sung Jae-jung, who. Why? So she wrote one of my favorite dramas, and I think it's Boroma's all-time favorite drama, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Kinsman. So it's like. That's the bar. And then we had 9, which is a fantastic drama. 9 was the drama that the moment I finished it, I could no longer be a lurker on Drama Bean. So that's when I was like, okay, now is the time to embrace the fandom and let them heal me. And so that was the drama that took me into the Drama Beans fandom.
Wait, I mean, heal you from like a traumatic experience of the drama?
No, as in it was traumatic for good reasons.
Oh,
it was a good show.
Okay.
But so what you've got this fantastic heroine in Queen in Hyunsman, which is played by Yoona. And Yoona has this like wonderful charm she brings to all of her roles that even if she doesn't have a lot to do, and now that I'm looking at it with like through the long lens of time, her storyline was really not
supportive,
comparable to Kim Bong-do's. Like he had all of that hotshot action, the exciting thrillery, historical melodrama, politics, intrigues, murder, assassination. Everything was going on, and she was like, and I have to say, I actually liked that contrast. I think it really worked in the show. And then
I have something to say here.
Go on.
Just an insert. I completely agree, but also in the context of that show, as you said, that contrast worked because
it was part of the package of the show.
It's not just that she was our point of view. Like if we suddenly found this Joseon era man in our world, and he was time traveling, and we had to grapple with things really quickly, figure out history really fast, figure out where in time he is, and how my actions can change things or his actions change things. Now it just
can't
so many things
can't change. Is what she was
coping really well for someone who kept calling herself really dim. And I love that. I loved how resourceful she was, given the limited knowledge that she had, limited control she had over, and and her goals were very clear. She wanted this guy to come back, and she wanted him and she wanted him safe.
Yeah.
So, and she worked towards that. So I really enjoyed you. And as you said, Yoona just puts in more into a character, even though that character might be limited in somebody else's hands. In her, it just I never figured out that she had less to do. It always felt like she was very integral to the story.
Right, exactly, because you were so interested in her outcomes, and like you could really relate to her, and she was so cute and adorable. And I thought she was so stunning. I think she was the first actress, because this was my second drama, right? So she was the first actress I saw with that face, and I just thought, wow. I was like, she is so beautiful. And then, of course, after that, you start seeing all the other faces that look.
Yeah, I mean, I also really loved her in that. I also really loved Queen in Hyunsman, but I just want to point out that like there were some people who were not happy with the ending of Queen.
Okay, so I'm getting there. I'm getting there.
I'm just saying.
Wait for me. So I'm getting
okay.
Okay. As you say, there were people who were pretty dissatisfied with the ending, but I wasn't. So it's never like bothered me before in like, for example, in that drama, and also in a 9, and also to some extent in W. It didn't bother me that she didn't explain her mechanisms, because I felt that there was enough in world that like it was originally inexplicable. But in Memories of Alhambra, that just doesn't work.
It does not work. You did not have a magical Pujok doing things. This is supposed to have logical reasonings. Yeah.
Right. So like the questions, like I have so many questions. Like first, the moment that last shot rolled, I was like, what just happened? It was just like mad fury. It's like, are you kidding me? Is this all? Are you for real? So then, I was listing my questions, like, okay, so why did the game malfunction and cross over into reality? Was it sentient? In the other shows that she's done, you're talking about different timelines and dimensions and, comprehensibly inexplicable. But this is a game that exists in the same reality, exists in the same timeline. It exists in the same.
That was created by a human being, and it's
right, and like the fact, how could Seju vanish from the physical world? That did not make sense. And they had like a one-line answer to that, which also did not make sense.
Yeah, I made an invisible pocket or something.
And it's like, no, it doesn't work that way. You are not manipulating space-time. You are not able to do that. This is a game. This isn't like a dimension traveling thingy. And
I think what he was trying to say, though, is that he was making himself invisible to the NPCs in-game or users.
No, but because he vanished from the dimension of actual
which was never explained.
Makes no sense.
How? And what was he in limbo the entire year?
What was he eating? Exactly.
Where was he pooping?
He was consumed by the game into what? An electronic dimension? Were his particles, like, did he become like sparks of electricity? What happened? You have to explain this. It doesn't work this way. So then you finish that with what's his name? Jinwoo also vanishing, and then it's like he suddenly his silhouette appears in the very last shot, and you're like, I know you're not going to watch this, Tanisa, so it's...
But are they spoilers? Because if they are, we should warn the listeners, because I don't care, because I'm not going to watch it, but...
yeah, I mean, this whole discussion is a spoiler discussion about the ending. So that last shot has, Jinwoo silhouetted, appearing in-game. I mean, it's not particularly conclusive. It's semi-ambiguous, but not. As in, okay, it's him. And you have Hiju running to him, and it's one of those shots that you did because it was so cool, but it has no, no foundation in the story whatsoever. Like, I was reading these interviews afterwards, and okay,
sorry, it just reminds me of the interviews that she gave after W and how everyone was so enraged.
So I have some quotes I want to read.
Hold on. Yeah, before you move on to the interview, let me just say something about the last shot. So I rewound and watched that last shot a few times, and two things. First is I really don't think she needed to do that thing with Jinwoo. Jinwoo did not need to get sort of killed and then not. That thing that just did not need to happen.
It would have been good, actually. It wouldn't have been a bad ending if she just left him as a pile of sugar. Just like,
absolutely.
That's it. That's his story.
Pile of sugar.
He literally turned into sugar. What?
Sort of. Okay.
So,
I mean, it's a gender reversal. We like those.
or just look, he's a broken man by the end. Could you just let him live like that? Just let him live.
Or just let him disappear. Let him disappear.
Or that would have, I would have hated that. But
I would have, but I would have understood it.
No, but you know what? So my second point is, what I think she was trying to do with this is, just as Jinwoo did his quest to get Seju back, I think she was. I think the implication was Park Shin-hye. This is Park Shin-hye's turn to have a quest to get him back.
I thought,
even though she
just thought that was kind of twisted. Yeah,
it was maybe, but it's done so botchily that it's not even clear that is where, because you never see Park Shin-hye hold a sword, right? So she never is she's never an active player.
The game. She's
exactly. She's the only time she's used the game is just to track Jinwoo. That's the only purpose of her being logged in. And she ducks every time she's shot at or
well, she doesn't have weapons, and she's not like a player. She
doesn't even have the basic weapon, like the basic sword that every other user. And you know what just blew my mind? Huh?
She's not the gamer at all.
She's not the gamer, but that's exactly why this implication doesn't work. If she had even held a sword once, the implication might have landed better, that okay, this is now it's Park Shin-hye's turn to sort of, I don't know, do a quest and get him out of the game. But since she's never actually been an active player and always just use it as a tracking mechanism, it just doesn't land. Also,
we're not on to Park Shin-hye yet, because that's a whole other subject.
That's a whole other subject. Yeah, I'm sorry. So you were saying you read up interviews.
So I was reading
of the writer,
and some points were interesting. Like, she really was inspired by Pokemon Go. That was like the inspiration for creating this augmented reality.
You were right,
and it's a great idea.
Yeah.
And like, the other thing that is kind of true about her dramas is that they've all sort of visually, in terms of like the way they look, the CGI, the directing, everything, it's all stood the sort of the test of time. All of her dramas still look as good now as they did like when they aired. And this drama is just it's beautiful, man. It's totally like, wow. But yeah.
But that's not something that she did, other than choose a good director to work with. Yeah.
Right, as in like, they only succeed in one particular way.
I see what you mean. Yeah.
In that way. So where was I going? Oh yeah. So interestingly, sometimes when you're watching dramas and you wonder if your experience of the drama is altered by, for example, like a culture barrier. Like, am I not getting something here that is clear to, for example, a domestic audience? But it's like, no, netizens are also frothing at the mouth for exactly the same reasons we are. And like, there was this great comment, and I wrote it down so I could tell you guys it. So one comment goes, "The scriptwriter is a bug, delete the scriptwriter." So her explanation for the game malfunctioning, and I'll read you the quote from her interview, is so the question she was asked is, why did people die in the game? And her answer was basically that murderous intent between players caused an error. And this is the quote. So you can think of it as a virus. Having murderous intent and breaking the rules created an error in the game. In Yujino and Chaeyoung-suk's case as well, the murderous fights between the users caused them to become able to feel pain and unable to log out. And she adds, I had my storyline edited by a professional in the field. Using smart lenses to play an AR game means that the brain can be controlled by the game. So, I'm sorry, I call very big BS. This is like, no! So one, Marco didn't try to kill Seju in the game. So these are the two original, like Seju is the game creator, that's Park Shin-hye's brother, and Marco was his like sort of gangster Hyung who was trying to like commandeer the profits of selling it from him. So he tried to kill Seju in real life.
But while logged in the game.
While logged in the game. But like and Emma,
in the presence of this one NPC character, Emma.
Right, who is like a lookalike of Hiju.
Yeah, and she's a sort of a oracle, and I don't know, she's one of those. Yeah.
Yeah. So so one, Marco didn't try to kill Seju in the game, so the game shouldn't have registered that because he wasn't using a game weapon. And secondly, Seju Marco does die. Seju didn't try to kill him. He was trying to protect himself. So it's like self-defense, not murder. I mean, in the way that distinction works. So no. No. And then the whole having my storyline edited by a professional and using smart lenses means that the brain can be controlled. No.
No, okay, so here's the thing. That's a misunderstood concept. The brain absolutely is influenced by what you do, but using smart lenses, that is laughable. The lens itself is not
controlled by the lens. Like you
can no, the brain is not controlled. The brain is absolutely not controlled, and I also call bullshit on the lens being able to make you feel
right. So, look, it's not altering your reality in that way. Like, you could have come up with some pretty good pseudoscience here. Like, I had a theory, and my theory was that I can't remember because my memory's been wiped by the terrible ending. But like, basically, it was like there was something happening, like an interaction between like your brain and the reality that you're perceiving through the game.
Yeah,
something is happening, and it's like an unexpected, a side effect of it. But I mean, you could have pulled out.
Yes, that's what I thought as well. That like, of course your brain is. Yeah, exactly. I assume that the more the users played this, or maybe it's not even about immersion. It's just about the game. Whatever technology it uses does influence the person's brain. Let's say. And that's fine. And at some point, it does it to a point where you believe that you've actually been hit. Like when Cha Hyun, what was Jinu's rival? Cha Hyun-suk, sorry. So when Cha Hyun-suk was killed by that sword, he shouldn't have felt anything, but his brain thought that he had been stabbed.
And then you tricked your brain.
Exactly. So you tricked your brain, and he thought he died.
Let me read you her explanation for the next part. So what allows the game to access an augmented reality through the lens is that it makes it possible to control the brain, Sung explained further. So while Jinu does experience genuine pain in battle and suffers from a limp in real life, there's a logical explanation for why his leg isn't hurt while in the game. To put it simply, it's mind control. Which, again, nope. That's not a logical explanation.
Okay, but it's so ex machina, it's ridiculous. I mean, you're not even trying
and
to
it's like you're
work on
making
the
this
theory.
up now because you didn't explain it before. Because if you had this like
so I don't
clearly
believe in this, like after the show or the movie ends and everyone's mad, you suddenly have to give like interviews to explain it. That means you failed as a writer.
I agree.
I'm sorry.
Right, I mean that like you're retroactively sort of trying to rationalize what you've just done, but you didn't know what you were doing when you did it. So, like,
the
for
thing
example,
with this writer.
Just one more quote.
Go
Let me
on,
give it to you because this is about Cha Young-suk, the friend that he who died in the game. So this is another quote. The scene where the police officer speculates that Cha Young-suk's death was caused by a lack of blood in his body was written to trick viewers. This was that was only a speculation made by the police officer as they couldn't properly check if it was true. It was a line used to give anxiety as to whether Yujino was actually complicit in the murder of Cha. It's like, no!
What?
If anything, this interview makes me even angrier. Like, your explanation is worse. You should have just left it as it was. So yeah, I'm not very happy with this.
Okay.
There are plenty of things in the
I
game's
still have
logic. Yeah, which absolutely. Well, there are plenty of things in the game's own logic that doesn't work, but then it doesn't have to. We know that this is a made-up world. It's fine with me that if the logic fails at times.
The rules, but you have to have the rule. Like, you have to know
being
the
consistent.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
you have to know the
internal
rules.
Consistency.
Exactly.
It doesn't need to make sense in real world terms if it works within the rules of the world that you've created. But the thing is, she had basically the real world, and then she had the game. And the thing is, the game wasn't a different dimension. It had to connect to the real world somehow. Like, it had to connect properly, like explicably, in a way that, for example, time travel, her previous time travel devices didn't have to, because they were quite mystical. But this is science. This isn't, what is it called, pujok and talismans and things like that.
Exactly.
It's not,
there has to be a
mystical
little more.
incense sticks. Yeah, exactly.
But what was the most magical and inexplicable of all of this stuff was, once you take off the lens, how does your brain keep staying logged into the server? It's not just that you're seeing ghosts and fighting them. You are actually logged into the server. How is that possible?
And it's like, you could have taken a little bit of time to give that some explanation, internal consistency. Like, that can happen, but you have to know why. So, like, all of these things can happen, but you have to understand. You, as the writer, have to know. And you have to show it to us, not tell us it in a post-show interview when everyone's mad with you.
So I understand that, as with some other shows, that I feel like my experience of like now, my experience of her shows is always just like watching everyone around me go crazy with excitement for the first half of her shows, and I'm like, how are you going to
the first half was so good,
and then it just like crashes and burns, and I'm over here being like the terrible person with the schadenfreude who's like, I'm glad I didn't start watching that.
But sorry. It's because of Queen in Hinsman and 9. It's because of those two shows that, and because her first halves are so good. It's since not... W, I'm like,
So do you think that it's still worth watching despite the ending, or do you think that the ending ruins?
Yes, it's worth watching.
Okay.
I feel no.
You're not? Okay.
Yeah. Because, I mean, let's get on to Park Shin-hye. So, like, we were talking about how Sung Ji-jung's shows are, like, conceptually, like, fantastic. She's always doing something cutting edge and different and setting trends. But man, her storytelling needs work. Like, with this one, she could have just gone sci-fi. And like, again, in one of the interviews, she said that she hadn't actually written in a love interest or for the female character. And, the female character wasn't a big thing. But then when she found out that Park Shin-hye was cast for that role, she felt like it would be a waste of her character not to have a love line. And it's like, well, that went well, didn't it? Because her character was totally wasted, and like literally all she did all show was cry, wait for him, and play guitar. Although impressively, that guitar, she did that herself. Like she practiced a lot. She put so much into that role, and it's such a disservice to her. And she's a good actress. She might not have like the sort of an enormous range, but she has things she's good at.
She's solid.
Yeah, exactly. She's a reliable actress, and she's like interesting to watch, and I like her. Like, I'm not like a rabid anti or a rabid stan. Is that what you call them?
Yeah.
A
stan. Sassing is on another level.
Okay.
Those are the ones who like stalk their idols outside their homes and send them like period blood and stuff.
Oh God.
It's the true story. Let's not go there. But I know what you mean. Like she's reliable. She's a really likable on-screen presence. Yeah.
Yeah, and she's able to give her role's character. She just had nothing to work with. It's not that she had a limited amount to work with. She had nothing to work with. Like you just yeah. So again, this is characteristic of Song Ji-jung dramas, is that they are all one-man shows, which would be fine if you didn't have a woman in there just sort of being furniture, or as our friend Litan put it, a potted plant, which is what she was throughout this whole show. Yeah, this was a waste of 16 hours for me. Sorry, go on, P.
I think it's worth watching anyway. The visual effects of this drama is stunning. The concept was interesting, and now that this has been done, I'm hoping that the next story that uses augmented reality will learn from the mistakes of this story and just do better. But also, it was worth watching it because of Hyun Bin. I have never liked this guy better.
Yes.
I have never liked him better. He was so
amazing.
And his character was given proper range.
Yeah.
Everything Park Shin-hye's character missed, his character was given. He not only had to battle real, Joseon era or even Alhambra, like old Spanish warriors. He also had to battle like the disbelief of the people in his life. Constantly sort of battle insanity because he was in an insane situation, and somehow still stay calm, even keep his humor somewhat, and keep carrying on because he wants to survive.
Was so razor sharp. It was so good. This is what I mean about she should have just gone sort of all in with her one-man show. Just make it his show. It would have been better.
Yeah, I agree. Without the Park Shin-hye tangent, I would have had, even with the lack of logic at the end, I don't think I would have minded. I don't think I would have had the sort of like simmering ill feeling that I have towards this drama that I have because of Park Shin-hye's character.
Yeah, like, because the whole last episode was just her mooning around, crying and waiting for him to come home, and it's like, this is boring.
I skipped most of
it.
But yeah.
It's not that it was boring, it was infuriating, because it's like you've got an hour of showtime.
Yeah.
You should have used it wisely. Oh, and the other thing that's interesting about Jinwoo's character, and we will move on very soon, is that Song Ji-jung said that she was this character is the only original character that survived her first conception of this story, which was originally some kind of time slip story, and then she was like, I'm tired of time slip, and then she got inspired by Pokemon Go, which was big at the time, but she'd also she'd just read the autobiography of Elon Musk, so she was like, the junior character is based on him to some degree. Like, both of them have PhDs in engineering, and they're both like self-made CEOs of extremely successful IT companies. That's a quote. So I found that quite interesting, though Elon Musk as a role model does seem a little
a little bit problematic.
But Jinwoo is genuinely a fantastic character, and Hyunbin really nailed it.
I guess my hesitance with her is that I just don't trust her anymore as a writer and as like a human being. So it makes me reluctant to, even though I know that she's really talented in a lot of ways, I'm just like, do I really want to give that much time to you?
Yeah,
I want to give you my heart
anymore.
Unfortunately, because she does have a genius for creating new and interesting worlds, I'll probably always give her dramas at least one, try. and then of course have my heart broken. But yeah, that's just
I can deal with having heartbreak.
I feel like my self-protective instincts are stronger than you guys.
But like, for example, see with 9, that was, that kind of killed me. I can deal with heartbreak. What I can't deal with is it leaving me fuming and
but it
simmering.
has to make sense, right?
Like, yeah, exactly. It has to make sense.
It always has to be a happy ending. It just has to make sense.
Yeah, in the last 2 dramas with W and this one, it seems like she was so in love with the concept that she didn't actually give much thought to the
storytelling.
Nitty-gritties of the storytelling.
Yeah.
So
maybe she needs a really good writing partner who can rein her in on
she, like, Kim In-suk does so much better with a co-writer. Yeah. I think Song Ji-jung needs to maybe steal Kim In-suk's one. It would be better.
Ooh, makjang. Okay.
What happens in the writers' room?
Yep.
So those are our thoughts, and now we are moving on to Red Moon, Blue Sun, or Children of Nobody. Saya?
I almost forgot about that name. Okay, so that just ended, like, I think last week. Can I start with how smug I feel about guessing the identity of the main villain 3 weeks early? And yeah, I feel very smug.
Nice job.
So this show, actually, for a start, this was like, it got better every week. I think I talked a lot last time about how it's so well written and underrated and everything, but it's like, to the end it did that. And rare is the show that's driven by a single mystery and it keeps you guessing every single moment. But it did suffer because it had a preemption in the middle, so the episode count was thrown off. So the actual final episode aired a week after the sort of the penultimate episode, so that kind of threw it off a little bit, but still, like, it was great. The thing that suddenly struck me about the show is that it really reminded me of I Remember You, in like its tone, in the way that there's this big picture that begins to emerge, but it's been drawn right from the start. Like, it feels a lot like putting together a puzzle. And like, there's no sense of this being made up as you go along, because everything is so carefully placed. So I think I also said last time about how impressed I am by the cast, and like, the person I found that I warmed to the most was Lee Kyung's character, the gruff detective. And like, the first time you meet him is like slightly disturbing, overly possessive, just dumped boyfriend. And like, as the show goes on, he proves to be this, like, an excellent detective, but at the back of your mind, there's always the memory of the uncomfortable boyfriend that he was. But it's great because the way his character develops is that it's like he's constantly tested throughout the show, and he's like forced to confront so many things, like things like the limits of the law, or how, when the law is supposed to deliver justice and it actually sometimes achieves the total opposite, and that where his intention is to be an agent of justice through the law, he then has to like face his own complicity, and particularly in this like very horrible case of child abuse. So and that like meets this opposite of, like, when murder is meant to be the worst crime, what if the murder is justified and deserved? So the way that it keeps you guessing is that everyone is believable as a culprit. Everyone has the motive, but the question is who can cross the line. And like, you change your mind moment to moment about like, who it could be and who's capable of it and who believes in it. And like, Kim Sun-ha's character is the one who left me feeling, I think, the most disturbed in general. Like, I feel like she also, like, she maybe presented the character that was the most real. Yeah, she gets on with her life, but like, in the times in between when she doesn't have to like present as a functional adult, you kind of see her as this. You can see who she really is behind that functionality. Like, she's broken and sometimes dangerously. And I think that she's also disturbing because you always feel a bit off balance with her. Like, there are those times when she's totally like decisively functional and efficient, and then there's these other times where she just like completely falls apart, and she gets lost inside an inner world that only she can see, and her judgment goes out of the window, and you just don't know where you are with her. And like, it's a great character, like, to be put sort of like it's really internally consistent.
Were you satisfied with the ending?
Yes, it was not quite what I expected, because it turned out to have the murder stuff was actually resolved in the penultimate episode, but then there was this like further crisis for Kim Sun-a's character, which happens in the final episode, which is where she confronts the thing that's been haunting her from the very first episode, and like, you know, that whole uncertainty about how mentally sound she is, that it never quite leaves you. And like, she finally uncovers these like suppressed memories, but even then it's really hard to say what really happened, because like, you know, did it happen, or is it her interpretation that you're seeing? Because that's the way the show is presented. Like, there's this very blurred line between reality and like internal reality and external reality, and unlike Memories of the Alhambra, it's the perfect kind of ambiguity. And the other main person in the show, one of quite a lot of important characters, but you know, Vix's N, who played another character.
Yeah, I really like him.
Actually, you know, I'm never quite sure about his acting. So like, I don't know. Like, in this, he has a kind of like a mute intensity, which is like, it's either as a result of intentional acting, or it masks his deficiencies, and I haven't quite decided which, because like, all the roles I've seen him in so far have been quite similar. So I like, it's difficult to say whether he did really well, or whether it's just that the role didn't need him to do much more than sort of be intense and brooding and childlike, and that's the characteristic of all the roles I've seen him so far. But there is this one really quite extraordinary scene near the end where I found him really chilling. So for anyone who's watched it, Poetry and Paper Roses, that was so chilling. This was a good show. Highly recommend it. And you said, Anissa, that you you really love I Remember You.
I did.
Watch this.
Yeah, you were saying that makes me want to watch it more. That it reminds you of I Remember You. So it's definitely good.
And because you love Kim Sun-a as well. You would like this show.
Yes. Yeah. It's on my list for sure. Okay. So you guys have been watching an older show, right?
Yeah. Master of Study.
It was the shortage of Boksu. It was like, there's not enough Boksu in my life. Let me go and see him in another school drama. But it's like Yusungo when he's like legit 16, doing this school drama, and it's Yusungo, Goasung, and Lee Hyunwoo. So the three of them.
My God, it's from 2010.
But also yes. Baeduna. This is Baeduna in a way I have not seen her before. This is very early Baeduna.
Also, this is based on a Japanese drama called God of Study.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so you've got the main teachers are played by Baeduna and Kim Suro, and they're really good. But it's, you know, the fun thing about this is the kids, they're just so tiny, and they have like no screen presence, and you're like, I know what you will become as you watch the whole thing.
I feel like it would be so weird to watch it now, knowing that we like having known them as adults and later. Like 10 years. Yeah,
because usually you're doing the reverse, isn't it? Yeah. Like, we watch the young actors in these early dramas. Like, the stuff that comes to mind is the school series, you know, 2013, 2015, 2017.
Especially 2013, because the storyline is slightly similar with this external force coming in. Like, into 2013, we had Daniel Choi coming in and sort of imposing his way of teaching, and Jang Nara disagreeing with him. And here you have Baeduna initially disagreeing with the lawyer who comes in and tries to establish a new way of studying, which, Which, by the way, these are all methods that as a kid we did try out. It's not like these are completely new and amazing strategies.
Yeah, it's basically their school hacks, aren't they? And I have to say, like at the end of every episode, they have this little sort of epilogue type of thing when the credits roll, like study tips, and I watch them and I feel anxiety because it's like it's one model of schooling, and you know, after sort of living for a little while and spending very long in the education system, you just realize that that one type of schooling really doesn't work for everyone.
Yeah.
And of course, like, you know, like South Korea's education attainment is like better than anywhere in Europe, I think.
Well, that doesn't necessarily translate
like
into real world results.
It works on one level, but it also it may not necessarily be healthy. And like, I don't want to sort of make cultural value judgments or anything about that, because that's something very complex. But yeah, I felt a little bit like, oh my god, thank god I'm not in school anymore.
Right. I am, though, so I don't want to watch school drama right now. Sorry,
Okay,
just to clarify. Yeah, this was actually based on something called Dragon Sakura, not Gotta Study. Gotta Study was just another translation of the Korean title. Yeah. Okay.
Well, so guys, if anyone is sort of lacking for Yusungo in your life while you're between your episodes of Boksu, you know what to watch.
Yes.
And we're gonna wrap the episode here in our new format. So we will see you next week with What's Up in Dramaland. Bye, guys.
Okay. Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone.